Hello, welcome to my English garden. My name is Jane Savage, and today I want to read to you Now One Foot, Now the Other, and it's by Tommy DiPaolo. Bobby was named after his best friend, his grandfather, Bob. When Bobby was a baby, his grandfather told everyone, "Bobby will be 3 years old before he can say Grandpa, so I'm going to have him call me Bob." And Bob was the first word that Bobby said. Bob was the one who helped Bobby learn to walk. "Hold on to my hands, Bobby," said his grandfather. "Now one foot, now the other." And one of the best things that Bob and Bobby did was to play with the old wooden blocks that was kept on the shelf in the small sewing room under the front stairs. The blocks had letters on two sides and numbers on two sides and pictures of animals on the last two sides. And Bob and Bobby would slowly, very slowly, put the blocks one on top of another, building a high tower. There were 30 blocks. Numbers, picture, ABCs. Sometimes the tower would fall down and only half the blocks were piled up, and sometimes it would be almost finished up to the top. His grandfather must be helping that tall. "Just one more block," Bob would say. "That's the elephant block," Bobby would say, and they'd very carefully put the elephant block on the very top. But Bob would sneeze and the tower would fall down, and Bobby would laugh and laugh. "Elephants always make you sneeze, Bob," Bobby said. "We'll just have to try the next time," his grandfather would say. Then Bob would sit Bobby on his knee and tell him stories. "Bob, tell me the story about how you taught me to walk," Bobby would say. And his grandfather would tell Bobby how he held Bobby's hands and said, "Now one foot, now the other." And before you knew it, and on Bobby's 5th birthday, Bob and him had a special day. They went to the amusement park. They rode a roller coaster, they ate hot dogs and ice cream, and they had their picture taken in a machine. And they sang a song and made a phonograph record. And when it got dark, they watched the fireworks. On the way home, Bob told Bobby stories. "Now tell me the story about how you taught me to walk," Bobby said, and Bob did. Not long after Bobby's birthday, his grandfather got very sick. Bobby came home and his grandfather wasn't there. "Bob is in the hospital," Dad told Bobby. "He's had what is called a stroke." "I want to see him," Bobby said. "You can't, honey," Mom said. "Right now, Bob is too sick to see anyone. He can't move his arms and his legs, and he can't talk. The doctor's not sure if he knows who anyone is. We'll just have to wait and hope that Bob gets better." Bobby didn't know what to do. He didn't want to eat. He had a hard time going to sleep at night, and Bob just had to get better. Months and months and months went by. Bob was still in the hospital. Bobby missed his grandfather. One day, when Bobby came home from school, his father told him that Bob was coming home. "Now, Bobby," Dad said, "Bob is still very sick. He can't move or talk, and when he sees your mother and me, he still doesn't know who we are, and the doctor doesn't think he'll get any better. So don't be scared if he doesn't remember you." But Bobby was scared. His grandfather didn't remember him. He just lay in bed. And then Dad carried him. Bob sat in a chair, but he didn't talk or even move. One day, Bob tried to say something to Bobby, but the sound came out awful, and Bobby ran out of the room. "Bob sounds like a monster," Bobby cried. "He can't help it, Bobby," Mom said. So Bobby went back to the room where Bob was sitting, and it looked like a tear was running down Bob's face. "I didn't mean to run away, Bob. I was scared. I'm sorry," Bobby said. "Do you know who I am?" And Bobby thought he saw Bob blink his eye. "Mom, Mom," Bobby called. "Bob knows who I am." "Oh, Bobby, you're just going to upset yourself. Your grandfather doesn't recognize any of us." But Bobby knew better. He ran to the small sewing room under the stairs, and he took the blocks off the shelf, and he ran back to where Bob was sitting. Bob's mouth made a small smile. Bobby began to build a tower. Halfway, almost to the top, only one block left. "Okay, Bob," said Bobby. "Now the elephant block," and Bob made a strange noise that sounded like a sneeze. And the blocks fell down, and Bob smiled and moved his fingers up and down. Bobby laughed and laughed. Now he knew that Bob would get better. And Bob did. Slowly he began to talk a little. It sounded strange, but he could say Bobby just as clear as day. And Bob began to move his fingers and then his hands. Bobby still helped feed his grandfather, but one day Bob could almost hold the spoon by himself, but he still couldn't walk. When the weather got nice and warm, Dad carried Bob out to a chair set on the lawn, and Bobby sat with him. "Bobby," Bob said, "story." So Bobby told Bob some stories. And then Bob stood up very slowly. "You, me, walk," said Bob. And Bob knew exactly what Bob wanted to do. Bobby stood in front of Bob and let Bob lean on his shoulders. "Okay, Bob, now one foot." And Bob moved one foot. "Now the other foot." And Bob moved the other. And by the end of summer, Bob and Bobby could walk to the end of the lawn, and Bob could talk better and better each day. On Bobby's 6th birthday, Bobby got the blocks, and slowly he built up the tower. Only one block left to go. "Here, elephant block," Bob said, and Bobby put it on top. And Bob sneezed. "Elephants always make you sneeze, Bob," said Bobby. "We'll just have to try the next time. Now tell me some stories." And Bob did. Then Bob said, "Bobby, tell me a story how you teach Bob to walk." "Well, Bob, you leaned on my shoulders, and then I said, 'Now one foot, now another,' and before you knew it, you walked." That is the end. Please come again to my English garden.